All right, Alex Svanevik of Nansen, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about Nansen. You know, for what we do at Decrypt, there are a number of research sites and data outlets, especially now as we track NFTs and DeFi, a lot of different price indices. But what do you guys specifically do, and who are the most of your customers? You've grown very quickly in terms of adoption.
Yeah, so the unique thing about Nansen is that we take on-chain data that we ingest from public blockchains, and then we enrich that data with wallet labels. So we have more than 100 million addresses tagged up. That means we can know the biggest funds, which wallets they own, the biggest NFT influencers, but also DeFi protocols, NFT collections, and so on. And that gives you a perspective of the market, which makes it easier to understand what's actually happening on the blockchain. So instead of just going to Twitter and seeing what people are tweeting about, like penguins and so on.
And which is not always correct.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. You can actually see if people are, walking the walk, not just talking the talk. So our customers are basically, the biggest market makers in the space, VC funds, hedge funds, but also a lot of retail investors. And they use our platform to discover new opportunities, to perform due diligence on those, and then also get notifications when important things happen on the blockchain.
Let's drill down into what the use case would be. When you say you have VC funds using Nansen to track, wallet activity, well, so how would they use that data? I mean, maybe it's Three Arrows Capital deciding whether to buy up a bunch of CryptoPunks, or is Nansen helping them time the market, or what are the other kind of reasons that people would be knee-deep in this data?
Yeah, it could be a few different reasons. Very often it's actually retail investors who would look at funds like Three Arrows and see what they're doing, and then following on, right? If you're a big fund, you might want to look at how diversified is the holder base, right? Who are the other top holders of this specific token? You can also look at what the token is being used for. So is it widely used in a specific DeFi protocol, right? So if you're buying a sort of long tail token, you can see, this is used in Aave or it's used in other DeFi protocols. So it gives you a better understanding of what people are actually using this token for. So yeah, it's both retail investors figuring out that Three Arrows is like buying this token, but it could be Three Arrows themselves doing due diligence on it. Yeah.
The reason I just mentioned Three Arrows as an example, and maybe it's a fun question for you, there have been multiple moments recently over the last 6 months. I mean, we had kind of the initial NFT boom, then things quieted down and everyone said, NFTs are dead. They were not dead. Now we're kind of in this second boom, and there have been multiple moments of a giant sale of, say, one CryptoPunk, or a series, or a certain Bored Ape selling for hundreds of thousands, and there's always like the 10 to 20 minute period where everyone wonders, well, who was it? And then it comes out who the buyer was, or even with the Beeple sale, 69 million, and it came out that it was Metacovan. So what have been some of the biggest, buzziest moments for you guys where you were the place where people started to discover the identity of someone or the wallet that bought XYZ?
Yeah, so I agree with the observation. I think NFTs are uniquely linked to identity, right? So if you want to show off an NFT, you know immediately which address holds it, but you don't necessarily know who the entity is, right? So I think there were a few examples. We talked about Three Arrows that came through our platform. In one case, there was a confusion actually, and Three Arrows was linked to a different address because of a misunderstanding. But later it turned out that they were actually buying NFTs as well. So that's one example that comes to mind. There are a few other ones that are pseudonymous. So you will have like Twitter handles who have show that they're buying NFTs, but you don't know necessarily who the entity is in the real world. So yeah, there are a few different examples.
All of this is so interesting because of something that I think has always been confusing for non-crypto people. I've covered crypto since 2011. There is a sense among the mainstream that crypto is shadowy, anonymous, untraceable. As we know, that isn't true at all.
No.
I mean, here we are, we're talking about a data platform that can show you the wallet addresses that have purchased a certain item and exactly what the holdings of that wallet address are.
Yep.
Is that something that you think people in general are starting to learn more? Is that actually it's more like semi-anonymous and it's very public, and that's the whole point? We at Decrypt spoke with Mark Cuban about this and about, celebrities will tweet out their Rarible wallet address and they'll say, check out my NFT, and they don't realize it means that we can see everything in your wallet.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Cuban has done that himself, and he owns NFTs. I think there are a few NBA stars as well who were also, we've actually found through the platform that they had bought, penguins or other animals, again, shilling the penguins. So yeah, I mean, it's true. I think people are becoming a bit more conscious of how the blockchain is actually transparent. And so I think it's a misunderstanding that this is, if you're a regulator looking into this sector, blockchain is actually much more transparent than a traditional financial system. And so it's important to be aware of that. Like if you're an individual and you buy assets, if you're sharing NFTs on social media, you should know that that basically reveals the address that you own. And so if you have a long history of purchasing stuff on the blockchain, you're basically revealing, that you own this address. So I think it's something that people should be aware of. I think most of the best funds out there, like 3 Arrows included, they know that this is a part of the game. And so if you're an investor, you should be aware that your investments could be made public. And so it's probably a good idea to invest in good things, right? Useful things.
You mentioned regulators, which is quite a term right now because everyone in the industry is thinking about regulation. Just today, as we tape this at Mainnet, we heard SEC Chair Gary Gensler give a talk to the Washington Post. A lot of people here are talking about it. Yeah. What do you think is going to happen with regulation, and especially because of what you guys do with tracking? You're in a unique position where you could be saying to regulators, look, you may have the wrong idea about this industry. I mean, it's not so shadowy. It's not, behind closed doors. You can track things and we can help you. I mean, what is going to happen in terms of potentially the SEC? If you listen to crypto people, they say chilling innovation in the space, but maybe it's not all so doom and gloom.
I think it's probably a good strategy to engage with regulators. It's not something that we as a company spend a lot of time on. Like our main customers are crypto natives, the people who are actually active in the crypto sector. There are a few other blockchain analytics companies that are more focused on the regulatory aspects, AML, compliance, and so on. It's not an area that we've spent a lot of time on, but I have given talks to both tax authorities, law enforcement, to try to educate them a bit on how crypto and DeFi and NFTs actually work. But we don't have them as customers because we focus on the crypto native crowd.
Yeah. And I mean, speaking of crypto natives, one reason for people who don't know, you guys, that Nansen has become kind of better known more recently is that NFT leaderboard. Yeah. And a lot of people, regardless of kind of what type of person they are in the space, are suddenly like really using that and citing it frequently. I mean, talk to us about that and about setting that up. That wasn't something you always had, right? And what has been surprising about that?
Yeah, so I think one concept that we focus a lot on at Nansen is smart money. And so we try to curate a list of addresses. It's not really, that's a main difference between us and other on-chain analytics companies that focus on compliance. Many of them try to focus on the bad addresses, like sanctioned addresses, illicit use of funds, and so on. We try to highlight the good addresses, the ones that are like successful at investing, and so on. And so the profit leaderboard for NFTs, it basically highlights who are the most successful NFT investors in terms of buying NFTs early and then perhaps selling them at a later stage at a profit. And I think it caused a bit of stir because you saw that actually many of these influencers on Twitter, they're actually quite successful if you look at the on-chain metrics and how they have generated profits and also helped create stir around all of these different collections. So you can look at it from two perspectives. One is that they're kind of shilling these different collections and so on. At the same time, they're also creating a lot of exposure for them. So I think it's also a factor of kind of community building in general.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to push you on that. The idea of success is relative, and
that's true.
Some in the NFT space who they own a couple of a certain collection, they love it, they're in the community, they would say, well, I don't want to sell. I'm not trying to flip it and make money. I like being in the community. I'm holding on to my Bored Ape forever.
Yeah, that's right. And so in our profit leaderboard, they probably would not show up. Right. But that's also because if you haven't sold it, how can you know what the value is, right? So if you buy an NFT at a very high price, you might be the only person in the world who would pay that price. But if you sold it later at a higher price, then at least you know that you made profits. So
yeah. What do you tell, let's wrap on this, what do you tell NFT skeptics? I'm sure you've had those conversations.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're out there. People say, this whole thing is just silly to me.
I definitely think that NFTs are underrated. I don't think they're overrated. So I think DeFi has brought the capital into crypto, and then NFTs are bringing the people into crypto. And so, if you ask a normal person about finance, they don't care about finance. And so why would they care about decentralized finance? But if you ask them about music, art, entertainment, gaming, right? There's a lot of people who are really passionate about these topics. And NFTs, we've really only scratched the surface. I think especially gaming in the short to midterm is going to be massive. Axie Infinity, I think I got some stickers from Axie Infinity just now. Axie Infinity has paved the way for like blockchain-powered gaming, and I think we've really only scratched the surface on NFTs. I think they're going to be massive for this industry.
All right, big call. Alex Svanevik, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Very cool.